You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
And you're listening to The Money Hour at 1150 AM KKNW, the Friday, July 23rd virtual show. Because of COVID, our show is temporarily moved virtually. You can catch us on air at 1150 AM KKNW on Saturday at 3 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Sunday at 8 a.m. You can also catch us on podcast. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
I am your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
It is a great day to talk about money. And that's what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, so you have a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're listening to our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions. More importantly, to connect you to the amazing guests that we have on the show today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150, or you can go online to themoneyhour.com. And now in studio, we have Justin Park, Romero Park at PS. How do you know when you need a lawyer? Right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Justin, welcome for the first time to our show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Tina. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And a little bit about Justin. Justin is a partner at Romero Park, a business, real estate, and litigation law firm practicing in Seattle and Eastside for over 25 years. Justin has appeared in courts all across Washington and the nation, including Washington State Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. He has argued cases before judges and juries, local hearing examiners and officials, and handled cases at the local, state, and the federal levels. In practice himself since 1998, Justin has advised and prepared documents for thousands of business owners and real estate transactions. He is also a trained mediator and works as such to help parties resolve cases out of court. Justin and his family have lived in Issaquah area for over 18 years.
Thank you.
Justin, so excited that, so excited to have you. How do you know when you need a lawyer? I know when I'd probably need a lawyer, but I'm curious to get your feedback on when I should be contemplating a lawyer.
Well, like anything else that lawyers do, there's a short answer and a long answer. But the short answer is, if you think you need a lawyer, you need to call one. And that is really the end of the analysis. Now, the long answer is more complicated, right? Because most people, their concern in calling a lawyer is always what? The cost, right? That is the number one thing we hear all the time. I didn't want to call you because I was afraid how much it's going to cost because you guys are crazy expensive. That's just not the case. The truth of the matter is that 99.9% of the time, my first contact with somebody does not have any costs at all. They call me on the telephone. I'll spend 10 to 15 minutes with them discussing whether or not they need my services. And once we have that out of the way, then we can determine whether or not there's going to be a cost. So when do you need a lawyer? Whenever you think you do.
Well, and I can imagine in a lot of, oh, sorry, Tina. I was just going to say, I could imagine we have a delay, everybody. So unfortunately, there's that little delay. You know, it makes it hard when we're on video and live and Zoom. So anyhow, I was just going to say, a lot of times it could probably cost you a lot more without a lawyer. Even if there is cost associated with a lawyer, you know, you're facing court and the things that could happen in your life. I mean, you are your biggest producing piece of income is yourself. You know, so you need to make sure that you protect that. And I'd imagine, Justin, you save people a fortune.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time talking to people about when to come and see me, right? Not just whether to come and see me, but when. And if people will come to me early, yeah, a lot of time we can avoid the situation, right? We can figure out the right contract language or the right business structure or structure their real estate transaction in the right way so that issues don't come up in the future. And that can be a lot less expensive.
So, Justin, how do you know what type of lawyer that you actually need to hire?
So the most common question I get asked when I meet somebody new is, what kind of lawyer are you? And to be perfectly honest, that's just about the worst question I can get asked. The problem is because when someone asks me that question, in their mind, they are imagining a scenario and that they were thinking of, right? My friend went through this or I went through this. And if I'm lucky enough to hit on the area that they think I'm going to hit on, then great, we're able to make a connection. but most people don't understand the distinction between areas of law. So for instance, if someone thinks I need a real estate lawyer, but in fact, the lawyer that you need is dealing with a contractual situation. Now, someone like me who's a quote unquote business lawyer, that doesn't exclude real estate, contracts, employment, all the other aspects of business that I work in. And so identifying the type of lawyer that you need is probably actually less important than the fact that you reach out to someone and ask for some help. Because once I get someone talking to me, I can make certain that they get to the right lawyer to help them with their specific problem. But until I know the specific problem, we really don't know what kind of lawyer you need.
We have one of those too. I'll speak for myself, Justin. It's what's your rate? And it's like, what's our rate? There's like 9 million compensating factors that make up your rate. You need a lot of details before you can come up with any assumption on what your rate is. Just like with you need the details to figure out how you can best help somebody. So speaking of, how do you find that lawyer that you need?
Well, I'll give a couple of quick pointers here. If you ever run into a lawyer who tells you, I've never lost a case, please turn around and run away. That means that you have a lawyer who is picking and choosing his clients based on whether or not he thinks he can win the case. And what you want is a lawyer who is going to be your advocate, right? Who is going to stick with you through thick and thin, who is going to put you in the best possible situation you can be in, regardless of whether or not you have the best case, the worst case, or more likely something in the middle. So that's the first thing to look for. The next thing to look for is how responsive are they? Can I get a hold of them when I need to? If I can't get a hold of them, is it reasonable why it couldn't happen? They were in court or something like that. Are they responding to email within 24 hours? Are they returning my phone messages? That is another just absolute key to knowing that you're finding a good attorney. And those are the two best pieces of advice that I can give anybody when they're trying to decide, do I have a good one?
So Justin, let's talk about, and yeah, the service level that you have up at the beginning, I always say that if you feel that something's really not providing a high level of service in the beginning, it is going to get worse as time goes on. So yeah, those are really great key shares there. So what about that initial meeting, Justin? When someone hires an attorney, what should they expect out of that first meeting?
Well, the first thing they should expect is a chance to really size up this person. Is this somebody I can work with? Do they listen to me? Are they willing to have a conversation? And do they give me the pieces of information that I need, or are they running from a script where they just want to say the things that they want to say? The main point of that first meeting is to find out, do I have a situation where I need your help? What's it going to cost? What's the timeline involved? What do I, as a client, need to do to help my own case? And if you can get the answers to those questions in that initial meeting, you're in pretty good shape. If you can't get the answers to those questions in your first meeting, then you really do have a problem. Now, the cost one is always the one that people are so focused on, right? What's the cost? What's the cost? And I would suggest to you, if you have a lawyer who won't give you that information or is struggling to come up with that information, or at least give you some kind of an estimate, you're probably operating at a disadvantage.
Justin, can we elaborate? So I know people are probably still wondering, what does that mean about the cost? So what do you mean about the cost? Like, what do you think it should charge? How do lawyers charge for their time? How does the cost exactly work?
So many different ways nowadays that lawyers are charging for their time. The traditional model was an hourly rate. I have an hourly rate, and I charge it for my time, end of story. Nowadays, we're seeing much more piecemeal or pre-quoted work, or flat fee work, if you will, where a person comes in and says, I need the following. We describe the problem, we describe the solution, and the lawyer quotes them a flat price. I like that one because it motivates the lawyer to get the job done as economically as possible, because they get a chance to really extend themselves and put themselves in a good spot. The third one is the contingent fee that you see, and that's usually in a personal injury or other situation where the lawyer says, all right, I'll take your case, and if I win, I get a cut of what you're doing. That's unusual in my line of work, where I'm dealing with businesses and real estate and things like that, simply because we don't run into the same type of settlement and insurance-based recoveries that you see in personal injury.
So Justin, yeah, and I've heard, people, it might even be a 15-minute increment. So you want to make sure when you call your attorney to ask a question, you time it to make sure it doesn't hit over that 15 minutes, because then you go into 30-minute charge for that extra 15 minutes. So just a little joke there, but true, right? So let's talk about in that initial meeting. So what should they expect as far as the time it would take for that initial meeting and really strategizing on how you can best support and help their case?
Depends on the fact situation, of course, but most of the time you're going to look at least an hour for that first meeting. You're going to come in, you're going to meet your attorney, you're going to go through that hour describing your problem, and then you're going to start to lay out some parameters on a solution. You may not come up with the entire detail on the solution. Matter of fact, in a significant problem, I would hope that an hour wouldn't be enough. But you at least get an idea of here's how we're going to proceed. Here's an estimate of what it's going to cost you to go down this line. And here's what you can plan on, at least in the immediate future, as far as a product that you're going to see from your attorney.
So Justin, what about, I know in our business, documentation, the proof's in the pudding, right, is important. So as far as the client is concerned, what's important for them to know about getting prepared with documents?
So two ways to look at this. One is you want your attorney to be able to hit the ground running in that first hour meeting. So if you have paperwork that goes along with your discussion, I advise you to get it to them ahead of time. Attorneys can review that. I've seen just about every type of real estate document that there is to see. But if I can familiarize myself with your documentation, I can cut that 1 hour time down to where we can really get into the meat of the discussion. So bring it all. And when in doubt, give it all to the attorney.
Yeah, kind of the same thing with your tax account. Make sure you're giving everything to your CPA, all of it. So Justin, as we're wrapping up our time here, how do your clients stay in communication with you during this time of all of this stuff that's happening?
So the great news is that in phase 2, we're back in the office, but all the way through, we've had it set up so that if you call our office at 425-450-5000, you can get us. You can also reach us through our website at www.romeropark.com.
Justin, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Really appreciate it and look forward to having all of you in Hubbard's Radio when we get back into studio, but it's fun to kind of hang out here virtually as well. So thank you for your expertise and the great service you're providing to our community.
Thank you, and go Kraken.
Yeah, go Kraken. There you go. All right, coming up next on the Money Hour, nonprofit events, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Gonzala Radrick of GSF Events right here on 1150 AM KKNW.